These are the top places to eat in Boston. Mike's Pastry. This place is a must if you're going to Boston. This pastry shop has been located in Boston's historic North End since 1946. The obvious item to get here is the cannoli. They have a variety of flavors, but the two most popular are going to be the plain cannoli and the chocolate chip cannoli. I got the plain cannoli, and it cost me about $4. The other cannolis will cost you anywhere from $4 to $5 depending on the type of filling you get and also the toppings that you have. Another popular item to get here is the lobster tail. They cost $6.50. My first impression of these things is that they're massive. Not only are they massive, they actually are pretty heavy as well. As for the taste, the initial bites are very good, but as you get towards the larger portion of the pastry, I started to feel a little sick, so make sure if you're gonna try this to share it with somebody. The flavoring reminded me of eating an eclair. And just a warning, as you get towards the larger portion of the pastry, the ratio between the cream and the breading gets really unbalanced, so it's just like eating a bunch of cream as you get towards the larger end. So here are my tips if you plan on going. First tip, it's cash only. The next tip is how to navigate the lines. It seems like chaos when you first walk in, but the best way to figure out where the line actually starts is look for an employee behind the counter, and if there is a line in front of them, then that's where the line starts. If there is no line in front of an employee, then just go ahead and walk right up to the employee and just place your order. Most people will start forming a line right down the center of the shop, and if you just go off to either the left or the right, then there are no lines. As for the actual best time to go, my recommendation is that you can go anytime. There will always be a line. The only time it was extremely unbearable was around from 7 p.m. to about 9 p.m. The next tip I have is where to actually eat your delicious pastries. There's going to be very limited seating, so it's going to be very difficult to find an open table. So my suggestion would be to get it to go and either just walk to the Paul Revere statue, the Commercial Wharf, or the Rose Kennedy Greenway. I personally went to the Rose Kennedy Greenway because you can see the entire Boston skyline from sitting there. And all of these destinations are within a 3 to 5 minute walk. And the last tip I have for you is if you want to take it back home. I brought 4 cannolis back to California and I didn't seem to have any issues with it, spoiling or anything like that. Yes, the breading was a little soft and soggy just because of the ricotta cheese, but other than that, it was still very tasty. They do sell cannoli kits, and from what I read from other travelers' experience is that they had to check in the kits because there's a little packet in there that exceeds the limitations for traveling with liquids. So if you are going to purchase the cannoli kit, then make sure to pack it in your check-in luggage. The next popular restaurant is Neptune Oyster. It's located in the North End as well. It opened in 2004. Although this place is extremely popular, I personally had an extremely negative experience, so I can only share what I experienced, but for everybody else, everyone is giving rave reviews, but let me just give you my take on what I experienced at this restaurant. The most popular thing to get here is the lobster roll. It cost $31. I also got a Coke as well, and that was $2.75. My total meal came out to $36.11 plus tip. The main lobster roll is served with a toasted brioche roll, and it can be served either hot with butter or cold with mayo, and the dish does include the fries. So here's my entire experience with Neptune Oyster. The first negative experience I had was arriving at the restaurant. When I first got there, I stood at the door for about 5 minutes and no one even addressed me, and I was just standing around wondering what to do or where to even put my name down to wait for a table. So that was kind of frustrating to have waiter after waiter just pass by you and not give you any clear direction on what to do next. Another negative experience that I had was having to wait 30 minutes to get my food after placing my order. I understand that the restaurant is busy, but I feel that 30 minutes is a little too excessive to be waiting for your food. Another negative experience that I had, which wasn't too big of a deal, was the fact that they never refilled my drinks. I mean, I don't mind having to ask to get my drink refilled, but when they seem to be purposely walking around you or trying to pretend like they don't see your cup, or that you're trying to get their attention so you can ask to get a refill, but they just continuously avert their eyes, then it does seem to get a little irritating. As for the quality of the meal, the fries tasted very similar to something that you can get at the nearest Sizzler or TGI Fridays. As for the lobster roll itself, yes, it was extremely good, it was tasty, but if I were to summarize the taste in one word, it would just be butter. That's all it reminded me of. When you take your first bite, at first it's very good, but then after a few bites, then you just start realizing that it's just nothing but a bread roll covered with butter. These are my tips if you're still really dead set on going. First tip, it's going to be an extremely long wait. The usual wait time is about 1 to 2 hours, and it can be bad as up to 4 hours. My recommendation would be to go there during the weekdays and to arrive before it opens if you want to eat there for lunch, or have your meal there anywhere from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. The wait time isn't too bad, it's just about 30 minutes long. Once you do get inside the restaurant, they'll put your name and phone number down, and then they will call you 10 minutes before your table is ready. My suggestion here would be to make sure and double check that they do have the correct phone number, because if you miss their call, then they will forfeit your table to someone else. Another tip to consider is that there's very limited parking. It's almost impossible to find any parking spots in the north end. In summary, a lot of reviewers and travelers have said that this place is a tourist trap, and for the most part, I will agree with that. But if you want to have a really good lobster roll and pay an extremely high price for it, while having negative experiences doing it, then this place might be for you. But for me, I think I'll pass the next time I come to Boston. The next popular restaurant is the Island Creek Oyster Bar. It's located southwest of downtown Boston, and it's about a 20-minute subway ride to get there. I really enjoyed my experience here. The restaurant is very upscale and ritzy, and the waitstaff is very friendly and helpful. The most popular items to get here are the raw oysters, obviously. So I got an assortment of different raw oysters, and I'm not a oyster connoisseur, so I had no clue what I was doing. So the waitstaff was very helpful in helping me choose which oysters would be the best to get. The oysters range anywhere from $3 to $3.50. For 5 oysters, it cost me about $17 plus tip. The most popular raw oysters are the Island Creek oysters, the Row 34, and the Ichabod Flat. Overall, I really like the oysters here. If you watch my New Orleans video, I went to Acme Oyster House and I tried the raw oysters there, and comparing the two, the Island Creek Oyster Bar is miles better than the Acme Oyster House. I also really enjoyed the fresh bread that the raw oysters came with. The fresh bread came with a honey cayenne butter, and that was really good. So my tips if you plan on going to Island Creek Oyster Bar would be to make sure that there are no events going on at Fenway Park, because if there are events, then you can guarantee that the Island Creek Oyster Bar is going to be packed. Another tip that I have for you is that dinner starts at 5 p.m. So if you're looking to get the lobster roll noodles, make sure you come after 5, because I arrived at 4 o'clock and I thought I could get the lobster roll noodles, but they only serve cold foods from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and then after 5 p.m. they'll start serving all of the menu items. The next popular restaurant is the Union Oyster House. The Union Oyster House is located right in the center of Boston, and it was established in 1826. The history behind this restaurant is very interesting. You're going to hear most people say that this is the oldest operating restaurant in the United States, so that's a cool bit of history, but in regards to the entire restaurant experience, it doesn't really live up to the hype. A lot of reviewers and travelers call this place a tourist trap. I can't speak to that too much because I did arrive at a very late time, so there wasn't too much of a wait. I just went directly to the bar and was able to order. So for my experience, I had a fairly good time because the ambiance is extremely cool. There are so many things to look at, but I can imagine that when it is crowded and busy and you do have a lot of people are surrounding you, that it will be very irritating and frustrating to just walk around the restaurant. So the most popular item to get here is the clam chowder bowl. For a cup, it's $6.95, and for a bowl, it's $9.95. The taste for the clam chowder was nothing special. It tastes very similar to what you would taste at Sizzler. The only difference is the clam. In this clam chowder, they put big chunks of clam in it. One good thing about the soup is that it does come with free cornbread, and that cornbread was actually really good. I would say that it was the second best cornbread that I've ever tasted. The best cornbread that I've ever tasted was from a restaurant called Killen's Barbecue in Houston, Texas. That was really good cornbread. So these are the tips that I have for Union Oyster House. Try to go as late as possible. I went around 9 p.m. and there was basically no wait whatsoever. I just walked right up to the bar and was able to order, and I was served my food within 10 minutes of sitting down. Another tip that I do have is that if it is busy while you go and all you want is clam chowder or oysters, you can either just go to the bar or waiting room and you can skip the entire line. The restaurant does start getting busy around 7 p.m. And the final tip I already touched on a little bit, was that make sure to walk around the restaurant. It does have a very cool ambiance. There are so many interesting things to look at. If you go to the second floor, they have the booth where former President John F. Kennedy liked to sit at. So in summary, don't expect too much from Union Oyster House. It is very much just a box checking thing to say that you can go or you went to the oldest restaurant in America. But other than that, don't have high expectations of the quality of the food or service. Another very popular restaurant is Modern Pastry. Modern Pastry opened in 1930, and it's also located in the North End. It's just within a 1-minute walk of Mike's Pastry, so those two are really close by if you want to try both. And obviously, the most popular thing to get here is the cannoli. It's $3.50 for a plain cannoli, and then an additional 50 cents if you want to have toppings like chocolate chips. Apparently, there's a big feud between Team Modern Pastry and Team Mike's Pastry. I just say why not try both? They're both very good, they're both very affordable. You'll have a good time eating both. In terms of restaurant, Modern Pastry is more organized, but in regards to the food, I would say that Modern Pastry is not as sweet as Mike's Pastry. So if you don't like that very sweet taste, then Modern Pastry might be better for you. Another thing that I don't really like about Modern Pastry is that the shell crumbles very easily. So after a few bites, the entire shell is just going to crumble in your hand and you're going to have an extreme mess. One item that I did try at Modern Pastry that really surprised me was the pistachio macaroon. I wasn't expecting it to taste so good, so I added it into this video. It's about $1.50, $1.60 for one macaroon. I was very surprised with how good it tasted. It's very sweet and it has a very nice soft chewy texture on the inside, with a nice crunchy crisp texture on the outside. These are my tips for Modern Pastry. First tip, it's going to be cash only. Another tip, there is a bar in the basement. I didn't know that, but apparently from what I've read is that you can actually go to the bar and order cannolis if you just want a plain cannoli, and you won't have to wait in the entire line. And here's the final bonus restaurant that I have for you guys. It's going to be Toscanini's Ice Cream. Toscanini's is located in East Cambridge on the other side of the river. It is somewhat difficult to get there because there is no subway with a direct line to get there, so you would have to either walk or drive. But if you are in the area, I highly recommend going to this place and trying it out. I would say that this ice cream ties for the second best ice cream that I've ever had with Chinatown Ice Cream Factory in New York, but the best ice cream that I've ever had was from Salt and Straw in Portland, Oregon. The most popular ice cream flavor to get here is the B3, and that stands for brown sugar, brown butter, and brownies. And I only have one tip if you do decide to go here. Just make sure to go during the later hours of the day because there's basically no line. So those were the top restaurants for Boston. Some were good, some were bad, but if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. And be sure to check out my other videos for other helpful tips.